She had been discreetly employed by Prince William years prior. No fanfare. No headlines. However, after her death, her family learned they couldn't contain their cries when they realized what he had been doing the entire time. The thick, cream-colored envelope had a royal crest sealed on it. In her late 60s, Edith Turner was a retired housekeeper. It was in her quivering hands. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Her name was written with flawless calligraphy in blue ink. The letter's contents were brief but startling. You have received a special invitation to live in the Kensington Palace residence as a staff member. Start right away is best. Edith was a moron. Despite attending 3 interviews, she had never got the opportunity to meet the prince in person. Jane, her daughter, gazed at the letter with wide eyes. She said, "This doesn't make sense. Mom, why would Prince William pick you?" Both of them glanced down at the seal once more. It was authentic. No joke, no justification. 2 days later, Edith was standing with her bag open in her peaceful bedroom. She meticulously folded everything. Then she grabbed the ancient wooden box that was concealed under her clothes. She hesitated. Her gaze grew softer. With a gentle click, she shut the lid after tucking the box into a case corner. Her house disappeared behind her when the cab pulled away from the curb a few minutes later. However, something far more significant was about to start. The dark vehicle rolled through Kensington Palace's iron gates. In the rear seat, Edith sat rigidly. On her lap, her hands were clasped together. She wore sensible shoes, a white shirt and a navy skirt, but nothing could have prepared her for the grandeur that greeted her. As the palace loomed overhead, all stone and calm, the gravel drive crunched beneath the wheels. The door was opened by a butler. "Welcome, Miss Turner. You are anticipated by His Royal Highness." She gave a nod. As she stepped outside, her heart was racing. Quiet tradition permeated the palace's interior. Big windows that bring in the spring light, marble floors and picture frames that are gilded. Servants nodded courteously as they passed her. Nobody said much. She was shown a little, much basic room with a view of the garden. Everything changed the following morning. In the hallway, Prince William made an appearance. No introduction, no fanfare. Wearing slacks and a collared shirt, he smiled warmly. He remarked, "You must be Edith. We are so happy to have you here." Still unaccustomed to the concept, she curtsied rapidly. He went on to say, "I don't care much for formality. Simply be who you are. That's the reason you're here." Uncertain of his meaning, she nodded. However, she started to comprehend in the days that followed. Edith continued working, dusting, arranging and getting little items ready. People noticed her even though she never lingered or intruded. Employees came to her for guidance. William would pause to ask a question or say something that seemed to require her attention. She didn't ever want attention. It wasn't necessary for her. The outer media was ablaze with rumors of royal scandals and schedules. Edith, however, moved like silent magic inside the palace. Constantly calm, dependable, and on time. She kept a little notebook by her window every night before going to bed. She would open it, write on one page and then shut it once more. Her writing was not seen by anyone. She never mentioned it. However, one evening she muttered to herself, "There's still work to be done," and the light in her room clicked off as she put down her pen and gazed out into the pitch-black garden. Weeks went by. Edith adapted to the cadence of life in the palace. She never asked questions, got up early and worked steadily. Employees started to depend on her for her steady, composed demeanor as well as for housekeeping. Without saying much, she had a knack of reducing stress. Prince William took note. She was putting fresh flowers in the hallway one evening, as he returned from a long public function. He paused next to her and remarked, "You're always here." She raised her head. "I guess I am." He stayed because of something in her tone. He accompanied her in the staff kitchen that evening. The others were gone. Without any fuss, she offered him a cup of tea. The corner table was where they sat. William muttered, "I don't talk like this to many people." Edith did not respond. She just paid attention. He talked about the pain of his mother's absence. the loneliness of duty, and the weight of the crown. Without once interrupting, she nodded. She made no explicit reference to Princess Diana, but it was obvious that she understood. After a prolonged pause, he remarked, "You remind me of her sometimes," she answered, hardly raising her voice above a whisper. "I'm honored." Their conversations increased in frequency, length, and privacy from that point on. Following stressful meetings or exhausting days, William would go looking for her. She would be constantly working and present, dusting shelves, folding linens, and organizing books. He asked her an unexpected question one evening while the rain drummed quietly against the window. Edith asked, "Do you have any dreams?" She stopped in the middle. She had a towel edge in her fingers. "Spirits?" she repeated. "Dreams, in my opinion, evolve with age. You let go of some, while others come back to you." She was not pressed by William. Her hands paused a minute longer than normal as she resumed folding. She later sat at her tiny desk in her room. The notebook was open. She took her time writing. She then glanced up at the window, where the rain had turned into a silvery blur. She closed her eyes and let out a deep breath at that same time, as though recalling something distant. Prince William stopped outside his study down the corridor. He looked across at Edith's sleeping quarters in the peaceful. She had already altered the palace in ways that no one could see, but he was unaware of it at the time. It took place on a soggy Tuesday morning. On the stone stairs that down to the laundry area, Edith slipped. A moment's distraction, a loose tread. It only required. She was conscious but in pain when the workers discovered her at the bottom. She insisted she was okay and rejected an ambulance. However, Prince William learned about it an hour later. By the afternoon, a private doctor had shown up. The directives were unambiguous: total relaxation. Edith disappeared from her regular location in the palace in a matter of days. No more fresh flowers or folding napkins. Her chamber was unaltered. On her bedside, a tiny vase of tulips was silently dying. There were whispers. Employees whispered in the corners. Was she home yet? Was she in a medical facility? Some even questioned whether she had been suppressed by the royals. The news media learned about it. "Where is the royal maid?" was the headline that tabloids carried. There is no sign of Prince William's housekeeper. The palace issued a succinct, well-crafted statement. "Under strict medical monitoring, our Edith is recuperating without incident. We appreciate the well wishes from the public." But no pictures turned up, no sightings, no interviews. William frequently paid her a visit within the palace. Although he didn't discuss her absence in public, others who saw him saw a change. Longer walks in the gardens, calmer mornings, and eyes that appeared farther away. Then one afternoon, William's vehicle was spotted approaching a London solicitor's office. He came in by himself, lingered for more than an hour, and then walked out without saying anything. Nobody was aware of the reason. Edith's little notebook was still unopened on her bedside table back at the palace. As though they were waiting, the pages fluttered a little in the wind from an open window. When discussing her, the employees spoke in a hushed tone. It was slightly colder in the kitchen. Every hallway was silent because of her absence. They all sensed it, even if none spoke it out loud. Something had changed, and that evening, Prince William stood at his office window, gazing out at the peaceful courtyard with a blank expression on his face. Edith Turner died shortly before daybreak. There were no big headlines or media releases, just a private communication from the palace. "We grieved the peaceful death of our beloved Edith, a cherished family member." At first, the world hardly noticed. Next came the funeral, which took place in a tiny chapel outside of London. It was anticipated to be a confidential matter, small, straightforward, and family only. However, cameras flashed when the black cars pulled up. Prince William attended in full. However, he did so as a mourner rather than as the head of state. With his hands clasped and his head bent, he stood next to Edith's family. Jane, her daughter, gripped the order of service with trembling fingers. Edith May Turner, a life of understated elegance, is featured on the front. Prince William got up to speak as the service got underway. She served with honor, without passing judgment. She listened. No one ever realized how much she gave, not because she was employed by us, but rather because she supported us. We will miss her terribly. His voice gave a little crack. There was silence in the chapel. Outside, reporters were in disbelief. Headlines were filled with pictures from the event. A maid who was treated like royalty was Prince William's secret confidant. Edith Turner was who? Jane went back to her mother's apartment to get her things after the service. The location was immaculate. As though Edith had known, everything was silently prepared, labeled and folded. Jane stopped while she was going through a drawer. The wooden box was at the back of the wardrobe, covered with an old scarf, and there was a single brass key attached to the underside. She looked at it for a while. She sat at the tiny dining table that evening with the locked box in front of her. She made one turn of the key, then another. It made a sound. A folded envelope rested on top as the lid cracked open. The exterior was inscribed by her mother. "For my loved ones, when I'm not around." Jane caught her breath. Prince William also put a single white rose on his windowsill in Kensington Palace, which is located across the city. The answers were waiting, but the world had questions. Despite being little, the wooden box felt unbelievably weighty in Jane's hands. There were tidy bundles of paper within, wrapped with string. As the lid opened completely, a subtle lavender aroma emerged. There were dozens of letters in the first bundle. Every envelope was meticulously written and sealed with a crest that Jane instantly recognized, Kensington Palace's crest. She extracted the initial letter. It was more than 5 years ago. It all started with Prince William's distinctive handwriting. "Dear Edith, once again I appreciate your gentle counsel. You have no idea how much it anchored me. You make me think of a someone I lost too soon." Jane's eyes grew wide. She went for a second. "At one point you inquired as to whether I still believed in magic. I didn't. Not until I seen your graceful, gentle and unfailing strength as you passed through this house. I appreciate you reminding me." The tone was the same for every letter. Sincere words of appreciation, silent admiration, and profound gratitude from a prince to a maid. Only friendliness was present, with no hint of condescension. There was a pile of official documents underneath the letters. Jane shook her hands as she flipped them over. Documents bearing the seal of a royal charity, bank transfer records, and contracts were all present. The reality started to emerge as her gaze flitted across the pages. Edith had received more than a simple thank you from Prince William. He had granted her actual shares in a private royal trust that provided money for children's hospitals, educational scholarships, and initiatives to help orphanages. According to the paperwork, Edith was not only a receiver, but also a silent partner, with a portion of her holdings steadily increasing over time. A handwritten letter with the sum of 7 million resting on the last page. "To Edith, who helped me believe in common magic again. You never desired wealth. All you wanted to do was serve. However, your type of service ought to reverberate beyond time and space. This should assist you in leaving something behind. I'll let you decide the rest." Jane's eyes filled with tears. She discovered a final envelope after reaching deeper into the box. Her mother's hand has a mark on it for Jane's kids. She gave it to her adolescent daughter, Amelia, who held it nervously after the funeral. They bided their time until nightfall. Amelia then cracked the seal and unfurled the thick parchment inside while surrounded by family. The message wasn't very long. "Dear Thomas and Amelia, I think good deeds can be done in silence. I've organized this gift with Prince William's assistance. You are now eligible for full scholarships to attend any university where your heart desires. The remainder will help kids who don't have their own families. It's not necessary for love to be loud. All it must do is endure. Live a good life. Show kindness. Gran, you have my undying affection." The room became silent. Nobody said anything. Jane glanced up at her spouse. He had crimson eyes. Her youngest boy was holding onto the box, as if it were about to disappear. Jane was the first to start crying. The rest of the family came after them. They didn't weep over the cat. They wept as they had no idea. Because Edith never once alluded to the life she had subtly established, or the confidence Prince William had given her. They wept for all the years she had wiped their noses, ironed their clothes, and never mentioned the royal letters hidden under her bed. They sobbed because calm love is uncommon. Prince William was sitting by himself in his study at Kensington Palace. The big windows let in filtered sunlight. A tiny picture of Edith from years ago was on his desk. She was grinning softly at someone behind the camera while standing in the palace gardens with a cup of tea in one hand and a rake in the other. Leaning back, he gazed out the window at the garden. The hedges were rustled by a breeze. A youngster laughed somewhere in the distance. He gave a slight smile, knowing that her story was far from over, and that the world would soon see what a maid, a mother, and a peaceful heart could genuinely leave behind. He kept the photo to himself. However, he once noticed a friend's glance at it during a visit, and remarked, "She reminded me of the best in people." He occasionally stopped as he passed the locations where she used to stand in the palace hallways, quietly folding blankets or arranging flowers. Just a breath, not for very long. A subdued acknowledgement of someone who has made her mark without ever seeking recognition. Because of what she offered, the world remembered her. However, some who knew Edith well recalled a more profound memory: her composure, her manners, and her capacity to make you feel heard without saying much. She never pressed for attention or raised her voice. All she had done was serve. Her family also broke down in tears when they saw what Prince William had done after she passed away. The world would never forget her because she never once asked for recognition. Not because she was no longer among us. Have you known somebody who quietly changed the lives of those around them? Leave a comment with your tale. We would be delighted to hear. We're done for now. See you in the upcoming video.